What's going on, y'all? BlueFalcon here, coming to you with another video. Woo! So, you guys, we have a very interesting topic that I was actually watching earlier today, but I purposely didn't finish it because I actually wanted to see what do you think, you the people, what do you think about this topic? All right, so as you can see, the video is called African Men Are Way More Masculine Than African American Men. All right, and this is from the channel Kanganda, so please feel free, if you would like to support them, you can very well check out the video for yourselves. But you know, on this channel, we've been talking about the topic of masculinity, what does it mean to actually be a man, for quite some time now. So when I saw this video, I was just like, man, is it possible that African men are more masculine than African American men? And if so, why is that the case? All right, so I think you will be very interested in actually hearing what these people have to say. But let's check this out.
Most men in just like almost every community are not desirable men. Only about 10 to 15% of those men are really desirable. You have like 40% men graduating college and 60% women, but the women's desire for them to have men on their level, what then makes you feel? If she can't get a man, remember, she's educated and she wants to do very well for herself. If she can't submit to the black man in America, then how do you feel she's going to do it in Central America, where that man makes less money? How do you feel she's going to do that in Brazil? How do you feel she's going to, and then dare I say, coming to Uganda, where as you would say, the original African man is not earning.
All right, so that's pretty much the setup here. Before I even get started, right? Y'all kind of know my stance on this. I've said this on many videos before in times past, but I personally believe that a real man is a man who puts the Most High first. So if that's the case, I'm going to go to the Bible. I'm just going to read just quick, just to set up the actual platform here, right? Because again, we're talking about masculinity. So I can't think of any other way to really describe masculinity other than just going to the Bible. All right. Now, before I even read some of these verses, I must say this, right? I believe personally that because in the very beginning of the time, the Most High said it is not good for man to be alone. Therefore, he created Eve, the woman, right? So I do not believe in topics like this regarding masculinity. I don't think it's even possible to accurately talk about masculinity as if masculinity exists in a vacuum on its own, right? Because I don't think that's the case. With that being said, I personally believe that in order for you to actually understand what true masculinity is, what a man is, then you must actually understand his duty, his role and responsibilities in relation to the woman, because that is the dichotomy that actually exists, right? For example, we're not like these other organisms that are asexual, right? In other words, it's just one, gender, if I could use that word, right? In which case, then you can't really explain what is the feminine or masculine in such a species, because it's asexual. But for us, we do have two, and there is only two. Let's make that very clear, right? But let's see some of these verses and what the Bible actually has to say. So Exodus 21 verse 9 to 11, it says, "And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters." Verse 10, "If he take him another wife." Now, he, the man, right? If the man takes him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall not be diminished. So there you can clearly see that this is why you probably hear over and over that men must provide, because again, it is established from the Bible itself. It says that men gotta make sure that they provide food, raiment, right, some type of covering of some sort, clothes, shelter, and her duty of marriage shall not diminish. So conjugal rights, man, right? So that means that man must be able to perform, make sure that, sex, right? And if he does not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money. So as you can see, that if a man does not provide these things, that it is grounds that she can go free, right? That is evident. So in other words, sometimes I hear in the conversations women, or rather I should say men, they get mad because women are gold diggers, right? And I actually don't agree. Now, are there gold diggers that exist? Yeah, sure. But I think we live in a world today where men want to throw that word out so loosely, like women are gold diggers, when in actuality, women just need some type of provision. They just need some type of provision. So if you're a man and you can't provide not a damn thing, then you're not qualified. You're just not qualified to be a man. So I actually don't blame these women, all right? But let's look at another verse, right? We have Ephesians 5, verse 25 to 29. And I promise you, we're going to do this quick because I'm not going to dwell on this too long. I just want to set the atmosphere of what I personally believe is a masculine man, right? So it says, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. So again, you could kind of see that, in my personal opinion, if you are masculine, you must exhibit some level of sacrifice on behalf of your family. Like, you must be willing to at least do that, right? You're going to sacrifice yourself, whether it be going to work, whether it's hunting, whatever the case may be, but you're going to sacrifice yourself the same way Christ sacrificed himself for the church. That he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of the water by the word. Now, this is another part that I think is important, because I think sometimes, men, especially in this generation, they want to deal with these women, but they're unwilling to actually invest in them. They don't try to pour into these women. They just want to have sex with them and then call it a day. Hey, what's going on, Lloyd supporter? But yeah, they just have sex with these women and they call it a day. They don't actually want to invest in actually trying to actually teach these women. And I think that's absolutely sickening. But continue. That he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes it and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. Now, I think this is important. I wanted to add that there. Why? Because, again, man, if you are a man and you have to resort to constantly abusing your wife, whether it's verbally or physically, I don't think that's masculine energy. I think there's a lot of times in this generation, men think it's masculine because they beat their chest and, oh, I'm the man, and they start screaming and all this stuff, hollering at their women just to get them to do something, and that is not masculinity at all, right? Like, and first and foremost, if you have a wife, which, a matter of fact, let me actually go to the next verse because it's going to explain it very clear. All right, so you have Colossians 3, verse 18 and 19. Wives, submit to your own husbands as it is fitting in the Lord. So why is that important? Again, that's the next part I was going to enter. You have a wife. There should be no reason why you need to resort to screaming and hollering or yanking her or whatever the case is, resorting to verbal abuse or physical abuse, because the wife is supposed to submit. Period, point blank. She is supposed to submit unto this man. All right. Now, if you end up realizing that you have to even resort to screaming and hollering and all this other stuff, then, hey, pretty much, man, you done found out that you don't got a wife. That's pretty much it. You don't got a wife because she clearly does not want to submit. And the last one I really want to point out to you is this, right? You have 1 Peter 3, verse 7, and it says, husbands likewise deal with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your praise may not be hindered. Again, I wanted to simply add that there because, again, if you are masculine and you feel that you need to resort to a physical abuse, and I'm really stressing this out because, again, we live in a society today where there are so many broken homes, and men, they grew up with their moms, and they tend to be very emotional and very sensitive. So now when they deal with women, rather than just being able to logically speak to women, they have to resort to violence. And that is not masculinity. And a lot of men might say, oh, well, we know this already. But hey, what's it called? I don't even remember the term. It'll probably come to me later. But abuse does exist within households. So let's make that very clear. But with that being said, I would really love to hear from you all. What do you guys think, right? Because again, this is my personal belief. This is what I personally believe masculinity is. But let's actually listen to this video now, because now they're going to explain whether or not African men are more masculine than African American men.
Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Johnny Tamai and this is the Read Part Podcast.
Hi guys, welcome to Kanganda, and this is Outer Brand. Feels good to be here.
Okay.
Yes, Master Gabs is in the building once again. Happy to be here with my people.
Okay.
O'Shea Duke Jackson, Del Paso Heights, African American.
Yeah, we do have our audience in the background. They'll also chime in where they can and give us their expert opinion. But O'Shea, take this one away.
So shout out to Dr. Umar Johnson. I am a big fan and a big critic at the same time of our brother. And of course, he's not a fan of interracial relationships. So he happened to be on this podcast or YouTube called I Never Knew TV. And he was talking about if black women can't find a man. If I can get the clip here and we'll play it. It's quite long, but let me see here.
So do black women have to consider dating outside the race, since there's not enough men available for them, and the ones who are available want a woman outside of the race? I would still be against it. I would say that the black woman can go north to Canada and get her a black man. She can go south to Central America. More than enough black men down there. More than enough black men in South America. More than enough black men in the Caribbean. I think she has to broaden her horizons, but I don't think she has to go outside of her race. And honestly speaking, I think it would be to her advantage to do so. And the reason I say that is because in America, we have had the economic emasculation of the black man, where women have been put in charge of the leadership of the community. And it has been this way for at least 50 years. We have created a culture where it's okay for black men to not be masculine, to not be leaders. So if the black woman is looking for that traditional black masculinity, she will definitely find that in Africa, where black men weren't subject to that white emasculation system. She will find him in South America. She will find him in the Caribbean, because these are communities where black men are raised and taught how to live off the land, how to build a house with your bare hands, how to be a provider for your family. They very much still have that original killer instinct, not killer in terms of killing somebody's life, but that do or die for my family mentality that a lot of us in the States don't have.
All right, so this is before we even go further. Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm sure many of you might know him. If not, he's a Pan-Africanist, and this brother, he's always so pro-black. I think almost to a fault. I mean, he's really advocating for women, black women, that they should actually travel overseas just to find masculine men. Now, I don't. I mean, hey, good luck to that. But I'll just say this, if women in America can't even submit to men in America, if we're gonna go based off the premise that Africans, right, are more masculine than African American men, then how is she gonna fare? How well is she gonna even do with the actual African? I mean, I'm from Haiti, and I know this, right? And I'm just using terms so that people know, right? I don't really care about where you're really from, your nationality, but just for the sake of conversation, right? I grew up with Haitian parents, and one thing I know is that the Haitian men, they don't play that game. They don't play that game, and it's not just Haitian men. I would venture to say a lot of men, whether Jamaican men, whether it's African men, whether it's men overseas in general. Overseas in general. They are not like the men in America. They are very strict. Very strict. So I don't understand this idea that African American women, black women, are gonna go overseas to find masculine men. I mean, yeah, you're gonna find masculine men, but I don't think they're gonna fare too well. I don't look. That's why I read those verses in the beginning, because wives, submit unto your husband. You think she gonna submit to African man? All right, all right.
Okay.
So, I guess the topic of the discussion: are African men more masculine than African American men?
Dun, dun,
This is
dun.
going to be a classic. We'll start off with Agaba, since he got experience on both of these realms.
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one productivity software where you can manage everything and anything.
Okay, I would, not to paint every black American man, not every African American man, not to paint them with a broad brush, but I would say yes. Generally speaking, there's a heightened level of femininity when it comes to the way that young black men are raised in America, and a lot of it. I'm not going to sit here and talk about statistics of, young black males born into single motherhood and all of that stuff, but just the fact is the fact. Particularly among this millennial generation. Let me call it that as well. People that are born, let's call them 1990 and after. There's a lot of young men out there who are raised by their moms, their sisters, their grandmothers, and they deal with things from a feminist perspective.
Man, he's telling the truth. I know me personally. I'm born in the '90s, and I would say this, that he's absolutely right. I know when I went to school. Again, my parents are from Haiti, so it's gonna make sense why I'm saying this. But when I went to school, in elementary school, literally all the men, boys at the time, right, grew up in single parent homes. I'm letting you guys know this right now. Literally, I remember literally crying, asking my mom, please don't divorce my dad. Literally, that's what I was saying at a child, because that's all I saw. All my friends at the time grew up in single parent homes, and I thought that we were gonna be the next one. So what he's saying has a lot of merit. Like a lot of the millennial generation, they grew up in single parent homes, especially if you're growing up with your mom, right? What example of masculinity do you actually have?
They have a feminine attitude about how they deal with the challenges that they face in life. They have a feminine attitude about how they solve problems, how they resolve conflict. And it can definitely lead one to believe that this is not a manly man. Without the example of a strong male figure in your life, be it a father, an uncle, a big older sibling who also has had the impact of a father figure in their lives, a grandfather. Without that dynamic consistently and readily available, particularly as a young man who gets into his teenage years. I've seen too many cases where young men who enter their teens and the only influence that they have is a woman's influence, they just learn all of the wrong habits. And it just becomes something that's quite challenging for you to then grow up 15, 20 years later and be looked at as a grown man who understands the principles of what it takes to be a protector, a provider, a caretaker. Now, on the other hand, African males, African men in particular, I think lean too much toward this whole macho man masculinity thing.
Okay.
I think it's a world of two extremes. I think to a large degree, a lot of the men that I know of who were born and raised here in Uganda, to a large degree, whether they came from dual parent homes or not, they did have male influences in their lives. if it wasn't necessarily their father, there was an uncle or a grandfather or somebody of that nature to inject and install that sense of what a man should be. A lot of it is cultural as well. A lot of it is, this is how in my culture men and women relate to each other. And therefore, if you're not demonstrating this principle of manliness, if you're not demonstrating this principle of manhood, then you're falling short of that measure. So, you know, just to conclude my comments, I will say that generally speaking, there's a lot of femininity out there, particularly in the Black American male culture. I don't know that it's something that is going to change anytime soon, just because of, again, the trend of the way that young men are raised increasingly by single mothers out there. But there are also quite enough alpha males out there, Black American men, who show and demonstrate and prove on a daily basis that they're made of what it takes in order to be able to be taken seriously and respected as a man who commands respect and demonstrates that he knows what's up. So I won't say 100%, but I'll say it's enough. It's enough. Yeah.
When it comes
I like this guy's stance. I mean, I think he's spot on. There's a lot of, I think, for one, right? Why do terminologies like red pill, MGTOW, and all this other stuff even exist? Like, why is that even a popular thing? Because clearly there is a void. There is a group of men out there who feel like they are not properly represented. And therefore, you have men, you know, that came over the years, like Andrew Tate, Kevin Samuels, who preceded him, and Rollo Tomasi. All these guys, they come up and they trying to, you know, teach men how to be masculine, how to be men, right? And the reason why this exists, because fundamentally there is a void, especially in America. There is clearly a void. Now, they're talking about African American men and, you know, African men, but I'm actually trying to open up the discussion to all men as a whole, right? Because I actually do not believe, or rather I should say, I actually believe that the problems that we're facing here in America is actually affected the whole entire world that we live in today. Like, I know for a fact, because when I was in college, even Chinese, even Chinese men were speaking to me saying that, man, I wonder how to, you know, speak to this girl, how to control this woman, And so they're dealing with the same issues. And if you go back in their country, I'm sure that, you know, the Asian man, you know, were very masculine or whatever the case may be, right? So I do believe that's why I like what the guy said, because he kind of made it kind of a generational thing. Like, this is something that's present because it's the millennial generation. It may have started even earlier. I think especially for African American men, I think that whole dynamic where men started to lose their masculinity definitely started due to the transatlantic slave trade. You could probably go to the trans-Saharan slave trade. But these different captivities has stripped the African American men of their masculinity, right? If we just trying to speak within the dynamic of this discussion here.
comes to masculinity, when you compare the two, the African man and Black American, I think the African man, the original African man, takes it. Reason being, just the mere fact that we are the original and we come directly from the source, that makes us more muscular. In a way,
the comments.
yeah, in a way that we don't, our minds are not, you know, these Black Americans, where they grew up from, their environment is quite different from ours. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I've not experienced, I don't have much experience there, but I can just tell. Mm-hmm. Where they grew up, it's not, the conditions, first of all, are not so harsh. Mm-hmm. As compared to an original African man. Yeah.
Explain.
You know, that is a very interesting take. So he's actually saying that the environment is actually what causes the African American man to be, I guess, more feminine or less masculine than the African man. And you know, it's interesting because I remember there was a quote, and let me know if you guys, you know, put it in the comments if you actually heard this before. But there was a quote, I hope I'm not butchering it, but it goes something along the lines of this, you know, hard men or tough men, you know, or no, excuse me, tough times created tough men, and tough men created easy times, and easy times created weak men. You know what I'm saying? And weak men create hard times. So now you see this kind of like a cycle. You get what I'm saying? So it's interesting because definitely I do believe there's some merit to this statement. Like if you grew up in a very easy environment, then I do believe you're going to be more prone to complaining. You're going to be more prone to murmuring, which I personally believe is not a masculine trait. You know what I'm saying? Especially within the context of if you're trying to provide and lead for your home, right? If there is a very tough environment, the woman, as we read before, she's the weaker vessel. So she's probably looking up to you as a sense of guidance, as a sense of resolve and, you know, confidence. And if you're prone to constantly complaining or bitching or crying, can you imagine what that's going to do to your wife who's already the weaker vessel? Like, what is she looking up to? Am I making sense here? So I do believe that he has a very good point. Like, if you're growing up in an environment that's extremely soft, then yes, it does have the potential to make you less masculine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could just imagine back in the days, you know, people, if anybody ever grew up in places like, let's say, out of the United States, let's say like Africa or Haiti, the Caribbean, wherever, right? Back in the day, just to go to school, they had to walk miles. They had to walk miles just to get to school. So could you imagine what that does to a man? And even the women too. I would say the women were tougher back then, but we're focusing on the men. But could you imagine what that does to the mind and how much you have to fortify your mind if you have to walk literally miles just to go to school, and you have to do that every single day, right? You didn't have no room for complaining because you had to go to school. So now if we're in a generation where people could just drive to school, right? Okay, cool. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but what I am saying is that what does that make the men today? If you have all these conveniences, you could just drive wherever you got to go. You don't got to walk. So let's say if your car breaks down and you do have to walk, could you imagine such a man, because he is not used to or he's not accustomed to walking, he's gonna probably resort to murmuring, crying, bitching, moaning, right? Oh, my feet hurt. You get what I'm saying? So I definitely see there's a lot of merit in that. But let's see what the rest of the cast have to say.
Yes, I'm explaining.
Okay, sorry.
Number one. How can I say? Do you guys know what it means to be an original African black man?
What does it mean?
Like if we are to go, for example, to northern Uganda, the condition in which those guys grow, I don't think you can compare it to the conditions of someone there, in some black American there. You guys, the black American is growing up as well in a first world country. Yeah. The original African is coming from a third world country. Yeah. So my view, already the environment, I don't know. That's why you see most of the people, when they want, okay, they assume that when they want a softer life, most black Africans, they want to live because they believe at least the life there in the States is quite softer. Yeah, as compared to here. They believe that there are more opportunities and all that. And I don't know how I can say it, but
Say it.
yeah. The original African will always be the original, who has seen it all and comes out as the toughest. Yeah, as the most masculine. Yeah, I'll explain more as we move.
We have some tribalism here today.
Man, I every time this guy says the original African, this guy has so much pride in his country. I mean, hey, kudos to you, man. I don't blame you. You should have some level of respect and honor for where you come from. But this guy, original African, original man. Woo! All right.
Right.
Okay, what about you, Jonita?
Well, first of all, the way I interpret someone being masculine is in how they provide, how they protect, and how they treat other people. That's how I would interpret being masculine. It's not about how many muscles you have.
Very good point already. I know I'm stopping, but very good point. Again, she's absolutely right, especially when it comes to being able to provide and also how you treat others. I love that aspect because, again, that's why I read those verses. Like, you cannot say you're masculine and you treat people. Okay, here's the thing, right? If you have to assert your dominance and your physicality over other people, that doesn't make you more of a man or more masculine. You know, with great power comes great responsibility. You should be able to know that, okay, you know what? Clearly, I may be stronger or more physically capable than this person I'm dealing with. So why do I need to resort to being very confrontational? Why do I have to resort to fighting? Why do I have to resort to putting my hands on somebody? And don't get me wrong, we're men, right? So if we're talking about in the context of defending yourself, by all means, do that. But we just talking about the everyday to day, right? And that's why I love what she's saying. Like, you can really tell a man based off his interaction with other people, right? Like, if you see it, I guarantee you, this is the reason why it doesn't even have to be in your own relationship. If you see a man dealing with his woman and he cannot speak to her in a very calm demeanor, he has to always bark at her, and because she's not listening, the first thing that comes to our minds is that, man, this dude is slacking out here. He's lacking clearly because he can't control his woman. I mean, you get what I'm saying? That's just automatically comes to the mind. But if you see that he has a dynamic where he can, you know, speak to the woman in a calm way and still demand respect, that's when we clap it up to that man. And it's not only the intersexual relationship, it also goes with men dealing with other men. Like, you can see when that insecurity creeps in when you see a man who might be, you know, physically more capable, but he has to try to exert his dominance to try to feel like he's more of a man. No, look, if you are a man, you're confident in who you are. Nobody got to tell you anything. And nobody can tell you anything. You are a man because you are a man. Period, point blank. So you can definitely see the way men deal with other people, whether both male or female. It greatly tells you whether or not he is walking in a masculine or feminine spirit. That's definitely a fact.
How many abs you have, how many times you go to the gym, how many times you're street fighting, how many times you're pulling out guns, how many times you're being rough around the edges and being because you know, to most people that's how they would, you know, describe being masculine and whatnot. Look at what I'm saying.
I'm with you. I'm following you. Please continue.
Take Final Cut Pro to the next level with the ultimate bundle. Just $99.
Continue.
But to me, I feel like being masculine is how you treat other people and how you come through as a man. Now, are African men more masculine than African American?
Now, by the way, you guys, if you're watching this, you know, whether it be in the stream or the rebroadcast, please, I would love to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you think being masculine is? You know, please write it down in the comments. You know, let me know, because I'm doing this not to just tell you guys what I think, but I want to actually open this up for a larger discussion as a whole. But let's proceed.
Men, let me just give you let me separate the two. So me dealing with African men, Brian saying the original African man.
The original.
You know what? On a scale of 100, I would give them 80%. Not bad, honestly, because African men do come through, they do provide, but they're also deadbeats there. So let's not just give them the props and say they're this and they're that. But me dealing with African American men, and me, why I say I'm dealing with them is because I'm dealing with you in the comment section who's going to cuss me out and be negative and write a paragraph wishing me bad. It's you that I'm talking about. What I've seen is it's more aggressive. It's the aggressiveness, and it's the taking something small out of proportion, in my opinion. Because I could say something on the podcast and then someone will want to pour their heart out in the comment section. And you can know that that's not enough, because you can differentiate between an African man commenting and an African American man. I feel like they want to take things overboard. Like you want to go overboard to come to my Instagram and go into my DMs and continue spewing your hate. You know, that level of, oh, I must get her. You know, I have to one up her. I must teach her a lesson, or she must know what she's doing, or like I need to let her know who is the boss and something like that. See, now they're two different people.
Now they're turning feminine. There.
No, it's not like they're turning feminine.
Well, you know, this is very interesting. So she can actually tell how masculine someone is based off of how they even respond. And look, again, I literally said the same thing. She's just talking about texting. But if you losing your cool over the smallest shit, that is not a masculine trait. It's not. You get what I'm saying? Like, look, this is what you got to understand too. People are entitled to their own opinions. So if people say something that you don't like, you shouldn't be so flustered and start bitching just because you don't agree with somebody. You don't gotta become some keyboard ninja and start, attacking people online and start, you know what I'm saying? And first of all, that's a whole nother thing. This society today, I mean, doing everything online. I mean, you speak online. That in itself is totally not masculine. I mean, back in the day, even if you did have a confrontation, you definitely wasn't writing no letter. Sure, I would venture to say you don't even go on the phone. If you have an issue with somebody, if you really want to be a man, masculine, you speak to them face to face. You get what I'm saying? That's how men did it back in the day. But yeah, definitely, I definitely know what she's talking about, because I actually can relate. Even with this YouTube channel, I might say something and, people end up getting butthurt. So they write these long paragraphs, these thesis papers, as if I got the time to actually read that shit, all so that they can show me their disapproval. Man, ain't nobody got time for that. Nobody got time for that.
Can we talk about something that's I understand somebody commenting, but you're talking about somebody you're dealing with online that you know, and then somebody that's all. Can you give a equation? Whereas you met this person in real life, you dealt with them, and then that person in real life.
Well, I can definitely say that African American men are also masculine in their own accord. We even had someone here was saying they're more masculine than African men. I feel like what I said before, I still stand by it. I feel like they go the extra mile and they, want to one-up you. Even in provision, they'll one-up you and treating people well and whatnot. So yes, I feel like I would say African American men are more masculine than African men. But I love both, so.
You know what?
Is that?
Which one do you think you end up marrying?
Man, you could tell the feminine energy came in right there. Women, which one are you choosing? This girl looked like she done backtrack off of everything she said. That's such a woman thing to do, man. All right.
This one.
What do you mean this one?
Do you think you're going to marry the original African man, or are you marrying an African American, you think?
Whoever God wills for me is who I will. Gabs, you had something to say about what I had to say.
Yes, I think you make a valid point by the way that you evaluated what makes a man masculine.
Right.
As a caretaker, as a provider, and all of those things, right? I also believe, and I've seen it many, many times, the way that African American men dive head first off the top level into the deep end to fall in love with African women is crazy. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And I think a big part of that is the way that the women treat them. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. For an African American man to either find, and I'm not talking about a African girl who's like me, who is of African parents but born in the US and grew up with an American mentality. I'm talking about either she comes from the US and finds herself there, but is traditionally brought up with the mentality of a traditional African young woman, or he comes here and finds his bride here. I think the way that the African woman treats her man allows the African American man to feel
More
like a king in a way.
More masculine.
Yeah.
And in exchange for you making me feel like a king, I'm going to pour everything that I have into you to make sure that you know how much I love you, to know how much I appreciate you, and to make sure that you just continue to exchange this kind of a feeling with me that I love so much.
Yeah.
African American women don't treat their men that way. They do not treat their men that way. Right? It's the exception, not the rule, for a man to be treated as a king in his own household.
Wow.
More often than not, the woman is the leader in the household. So with all that being taken into consideration, it's not surprising to me to hear you say that in your experience, you find African American men to be more masculine than African men.
Yeah.
Just because I think, according to the way that they relate to you, they're more willing to demonstrate the behaviors that you value and that you appreciate. But yeah, I think there's a certain hardcoreness.
Yeah.
There's a certain sternness. There's a certain we don't love them hoes kind of attitude that African men think is the right way to be a manly man.
Are you listening, Brian?
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I, before we get to it, I wanted to speak about how upbringing affects masculinity for both sides, for African men and African American men. And like you said, because most African men they grow up in a 2-parent household, so they're able to see how a man acts and they're able to replicate that, you know. Whereas in what I'm trying to say is, my dealings with African American men on like that level of maybe trying to date and whatnot, what I've seen is that most of them have an anxious attachment style. An anxious attachment style where if someone goes a whole day without maybe messaging you back, that's like a big issue. Or if someone doesn't pick up your call, then that's a big deal. Or if someone doesn't, like if you do not give them attention when they need that attention, then the reaction is, oh, now they want to cut you off immediately. And that's
femininity.
It's not.
Ooh, this is a very interesting one. So, in other words, so what they're trying to say is that it's an anxious attachment style, that if you are calling your woman or texting them and they do not respond the way you would like, or respond in a timely manner, that, you know, if you get mad, that's feminine, according to the African man. You know, I totally reject that. You know, because here's the thing. I think it's totally contrary to the whole aspect of being a provider. That's my personal take. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, even Jesus told his disciples, go 2 by 2 wherever you go, right? Meaning that you should have someone there with you at all times to just keep you safe. You get what I'm saying? So, and then even the Most High went to Cain and he said, where's your brother, right? And you know, where's Abel? And Cain said, what am I, my brother's keeper, right? So the fact that Cain answered that way, what does that show you? It shows you that in actuality, yeah, you're supposed to be your brother's keeper. I mean, that's the whole point, right? So why is this important? Why did I even go here? I went here because, again, there's got to be some level of accountability to know where your partner, your significant other, your wife, you know, where is she? You know what I'm saying? So if I'm calling my wife, you know what I'm saying, I do expect her to, you know, pick up. If I'm texting, I'm actually expecting her to respond in a timely manner. Or else naturally, the protective nature within a man would start to question, like, you know, is there anything wrong? Especially if you left them by themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like for the men who have to go to work out there, I mean, if you calling your wife and you know she's supposed to be home, you know what I'm saying, and she's not picking up, logically, something's gonna come up to your mind like, what exactly happened? Now, there's many things that can happen. She's probably not next to the phone. She's probably doing some chores, whatever the case may be. But if there's hours that go by, and then you left your wife in one place, and there's no other logical reasoning as to why she's not picking up, it will eventually, at some point in time, I think it will drive any man crazy. I don't think that it has anything to be, anxious attachment style. And I think this is important too, because I think a lot of times women, they will tend to look up information that only justifies their bias to begin with. So why am I saying that? Because it's very easy, if a woman doesn't want to be held accountable, or if she doesn't want to respond, she'll look up information like that, and she could just throw that all day, like, oh well, you have an anxious attachment style. You get what I'm saying? And then kind of trick the man into thinking to himself, oh, maybe I should pull back. You get what I'm saying? I don't want to seem like I'm clingy or nothing like that. No, it has nothing to do with being clingy. It's just being a provider. You're protective. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, I would like to hear what you guys think.
Not that. No.
Behaving like a woman.
No, it's not that. It's more of like an anxious attachment style, because most of them, sorry to say this, have grown up in a single parent household. That it comes from a place where you feel like, oh, one parent had to leave, so now I'm staying with this parent, and there's that gap that needs to be filled, in that when they get to relationships, there's that need for, oh, you need to be with me at all times, or I need to know your whereabouts, I need to know this and whatnot. And you can ask these girls, and I know some girls who have dated African American men, and they're like, oh, I have to send my location all the time, or I can't just leave without telling him, or something like that. You understand? So that's where I say the attachment style comes in, and that's how I perceive upbringing affecting masculinity for both sides.
I see that as insecurity.
Is it?
Because the reason why I say insecurity is because when you've grown up seeing relationships start and end, relationships can become fractured very easily. And a young African American man can grow up and have a few stepfather figures in his life, because it's mom's boyfriend, and then mom's fiance, and then mom's this or that. And like you've just said, at the drop of a hat, the relationship can end quickly.
So you think you know Wix. Do you really? First up, we've got shit.
And abruptly. And very traumatically for a lot of these young men. But in an African household, Mom Dukes will hold it down.
Exactly.
She will weather any storm. There's no amount of fuckery that the old man can put her through that will tell her to leave.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I think African men just happen to be a lot more secure, or they demonstrate that type of secure behavior because they're just like, this is normal to me. If we don't talk every day, if we don't talk every other day, I feel like I'm secure enough to know you ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
You're not leaving me. But that also gives me the freedom to relax and not necessarily cater to you and be all lovey-dovey with you and treat you the way that you may want to be treated.
Yeah, I think there's two different things again, right? Like, the girl was mentioning more so if like a man would like to know the whereabouts of this woman, and he mentioned the word insecurity, and then he's talking about not having to cater to the woman and not having to communicate all the time, and to some extent I agree. Like, I do believe there's seasons where you may not communicate as often with your significant other, as much as, let's say the honeymoon phase, or like early on. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I don't think there's anything like you should worry about, like, maybe the relationship is failing because we're not talking every day. I don't think it goes to anything like that. But at the same time, again, if we're talking about knowing the whereabouts of your woman, I mean, I think that's a very rational thing for any man. Any man, you would like to know, especially in this crazy world. Again, I don't think it has anything to do with insecurity. Like, by all means, again, to each their own. I know for me personally, like I said, there's seasons. I may talk to my wife a little bit more than other seasons. Okay, cool. Although every day there's some form of communication, right? But, you know, I'm talking about that deep, intimate talk. But even with that, right, you know, if I need to know where she's at, and especially in this crazy world where we talking about people, you know, literally breaking into people's homes, you know, I mean, especially in America. I mean, truth be told, that's probably everywhere in the world. Anyway, without rambling for too long, this world is a crazy ass place. And I'm not gonna hear, you know, just expect silence or expect never getting a response and just saying to myself, oh, she's got to be okay. Yeah, she just must be okay. Nah, I'm not gonna jump to that conclusion. I mean, this world is crazy as hell.
Yeah. A shame.
So, in that clip, Dr. Umar Johnson, although he's an excellent intellectual, he fails to understand why. And I'll get to you original African guys here in a minute, but I want to deal with, he's saying, well, if she can't find a woman in the United States, he's inferring that it's a black man's fault as to why the black woman is unsuccessful in the United States. Typically, if you are unsuccessful in your own home country, and this is not all the time, but usually, it would indicate that there is an issue with you, because still as a woman, you would still have, most men are not desirable. So, you know, women always use statistic, well, you know, there's 2 million more African-American women than black men. But the reality is that most men in just like almost every community are not desirable men. Only about 10 to 15% of those men are really desirable. So women have a lot of opportunities to get a man in the black community. But when they can't get a man, then it's all about the fact that, okay, well, you know, yeah, these black men are gay and all of this. And as you're starting to see, I was watching this video the other day, in the 60s and the 70s in the United States, about 58 or 60% of all university were graduating men and 40% women. Now, what we've seen in now is the opposite. You have like 40% men graduating college and 60% women, but the women's desire for them to have men on their level is the same. So Dr. Umar Johnson fails on one point. The first point is this: what is the reason why those men in the black community don't find these women desirable? I believe Agaba answers that to a certain degree. Okay. And then number two, what then makes you feel? If she can't get a man, remember, she's educated and she wants to do very well for herself. If she can't submit to the black man in America, then how do you feel she's going to do it in Central America?
Come on.
Where that man makes less money. How do you feel she's going to do that in Brazil? How do you feel she's going to, and then dare I say, coming to Uganda, where as you would say, the original African man is not earning as much as what you see brothers in the West is earning. And that includes Ugandan Americans living in the West. Because we would include them when we're talking about an American. I will even say those guys, such as yourself, we would include them into our population, right? To this conversation.
Yeah.
So she's saying that I can't even find a guy like Agaba in the States. Otherwise, I would deal with him. So let's go to Canada or let's go someplace else. So then you're talking about this man that you're going to be encountering. You feel that you're going to submit to him. On average, he's going to earn less money. On average, he's in a different culture. He's grew up in a different way, and how you feel that you would want to be treated. I mean, the original African man told us that if you want that romance and stuff, go to Telemundo. Fly out of Africa if you're looking for romance. This is what Mr. Original African Man said the last few podcasts. So now I want to get back to masculinity and what I believe that it is, being an African American man. Masculinity is about running to the responsibility to make your own life better and having your goals and desires.
Epidemic Sound provides you with restriction-free music and sound effects that you can use across all of your content.
And then taking that standard to the community that you're going to be in, involving your woman and making the provisions and the sacrifices for that. One thing I would say about African men, they interact with each other in a much more positive fashion than we do. I have some brothers here from Houston, Texas. There was we were at Thrones on Saturday, and there was a fight almost about to happen, but the guy just grabbed him and pointed at him. But he had with so much respect for his African brother that he didn't strike him. You would not see that in America, okay? So African men, they are more masculine in how they come to, when there's conflict, you won't see violence. You can see yelling, or you can see screaming, but you won't see punches thrown. Whereas in America, you're not gonna get nobody's face, and you ain't gonna see nothing happening. Somebody gonna fuck you up. So in that regard, and that is a lack of masculinity in that. However, when it comes to wanting to take care of a woman, provide for the woman, the question for both the original African man and the Black American man is that woman worth it? That's the question. Because you can find a lot of women here and in Africa will say that the original African man, as Brother Alder Bryan said, don't feel that she's worth being taken care of, but they want to still fuck her. Right? The same thing is just the same case in America. The reality is this. African American men do lack some of the things that the forefathers had. But now when it comes to wanting to take care of responsibility for the women, a lot of black men that come from single parent homes, like my parents divorced when I was 14. I was the guy, and my brother had, went on with his life. I was the one designated to make it for my family. Like, you have to break this chain in the cycle. Just like an African guy going to America and his family is here somewhere in the village. So we have that pressure on us. So when you have to step up to the bat and swing the bat for your family, like Puff Daddy, if it's about, being a masculine, hey, that you got to have that killer instinct to become somebody. A lot of black men have that. I think when it comes to women is, as far as us taking care of you, number one, you're not going to go submit to the guy in Central America. Let's just leave that out, Doc. We know that's not going to happen. If it's an African man, he got to be an African man in America. Because if he's not, she's going to be disrespecting that brother. A lot of American women are coming over to Africa and dealing with local African men, and they're being, they have more money than them. What did the guy say? We did an episode on it. The guys are beating them. Right? So Dr. Umar Johnson is setting these women up for fail. Most cultures, and I wanted to, before we go back, look at Somalians. Somalians don't spend their time marrying Ugandans, do they?
No.
Ethiopians don't spend their time marrying Ugandans, do they? Or Nigerians. In order for Ethiopian to marry an African American or a Nigerian, or what do you need to be? You need to be exceptional. Like Tyler Perry got a baby by Ethiopian or Eritrean. The average Ethiopian can do that, but not nobody like Tyler Perry. Ethiopians and Somalians and Eritreans and people from Djibouti, you have to be exceptional to deal with their women. Is that right?
True.
So now what you're telling is, okay, as a woman, are you so exceptional? Most groups will force you, as an African American. If I want to deal with a Ugandan woman, I have to be better than Alder Bryan on average, or a local guy. Because see, for me, you're going to make me do something when I come here. Is that true? I'm an American. I cannot come there and not do something such that the local, I got to be better than this guy. I'm a foreigner. I might be black. So what I'm saying is, these American women, you're going to go to a place, you got to be better, but you're going to also expect that guy to be better than what you're used to. And it usually is not going to happen. And typically what I want to say is African Americans typically are people from the Western world. And I'm talking about this in the same block. Nigerian Americans, African Americans, Ugandan Americans, people from Britain, from France, they are better off typically marrying each other. Usually. For women are going to get a better time in the Western world because you understand certain things, certain brands, all this. But women coming here to marry a guy that makes less money than them, and then I'm going to say this, what is the use for a guy that really if a guy is from Uganda and he's rich, do he need to marry an American woman? For what? What's the point? Unless he really wants to, but you're probably not going to be able to beat the women here. In his eyes, if we're going to be real. Because you out of the culture. You're not going to understand what's going on. You might not honor me the way I want you to be honored. So what I'm saying, this whole masculinity thing is many variations. And what women want, and I'm going to tell you about black women in America, what I feel. When women say it's masculinity they're looking for a masculinity that can't respond to them, such that they can do whatever they want.
Wow. This O'Shea Duke Jackson. This brother was a bit long-winded, but I think that last part in particular was perhaps the most powerful part in his whole, rant. But he said that African American women are looking for a masculinity that doesn't require them to, I guess, submit. I'm trying to paraphrase, and this I actually agree 100%. Where a lot of times I would hear within the talk women say things like, "Oh, where the real men at? Where the real men at?" And these dudes are scrubs and all. They made a song about that. I don't want no scrub back in the days. I'm sure you guys know, but that is essentially what goes on within the African American woman's mind today, and it's actually very disruptive because, again, what they fail to realize is that if you're really genuinely asking for a masculine man, if you're truly asking for a self-made man, I don't care what it is, you better believe you're gonna submit. And I don't know why this is such a big thing for women to understand. Why is that something that they find as a threat? But you gonna have to submit, because ain't no way a man who's been working for that long is gonna ever dare have you come into his world and turn it upside down when he has literally built himself to an extent where, like O'Shea said, he doesn't need you. He doesn't need you, especially if you're a foreigner. This is why I can understand why he's saying these women, African American women, you're better. Your best bet is to actually stay here in America and learn to submit to the men that you have here, rather than trying to, do, I guess, the female version of passport brothers. These brothers are getting their passports just so they can marry women overseas. But again, think about that. Why are they even doing that? Because these women overseas can actually submit, but the women here cannot submit. Like, what is the issue with submitting? Hey, I'm actually show you. I want you guys to actually check this out. Hey, babe. I want you guys to listen to this, because hopefully it sheds some insight, right? Say shalom.
Shalom.
All right. So, do you have an issue with submitting?
No, sir.
Do you have an issue with obeying?
No, sir.
All right, you guys can hear it very clearly for yourselves, right? Now, I want to show you guys something, right? Because again, a lot of times women, they think that submitting is such a threat to their existence, and they just don't realize that there's so much beauty in submitting. All right, so check this quick testimony out. Do you remember when I first met you that you used to wear makeup?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what happened? And try to speak louder just so that the mic can pick you up. What happened when I first told you I want you to stop wearing makeup? Do you remember what happened?
I went home and I took off all of my makeup.
Right. But what actually happened to you?
Oh, my skin went through like a withdrawal thing, and I had gotten a lot of acne all over my face. And over time, my skin became like it's never looked this good before.
Wait, so you actually went to the conclusion. So did you see that? So originally in her submission, when I told her to stop wearing the makeup, you said that you went through a withdrawal stage, right? So your face was breaking out. And a lot of times women, that's exactly what they fear. They don't want to do this natural look because they know that after years and years of putting on this makeup, that they done accumulated so much acne, they can't dare walk into public. Do you remember walking into public without the makeup in the beginning? Like, how did it make you feel?
In the beginning, it was weird. I felt naked because I was always used to covering up everything, and now everything was just exposed to everybody to see.
Right. Did it make you feel uncomfortable in the beginning?
Definitely, yes.
Right? So it made her feel uncomfortable in the beginning. But the beauty of the submission is that now, lo and behold, after submitting and obeying, how's your skin now?
Like a baby's bottom.
Say it louder.
Like a baby's bottom.
Like a baby's bottom. All because you actually chose to submit, right? You see, and again, that's the beauty of the submission. And hopefully this is a learning tool for women. You get what I'm saying? And men, you make sure, if your woman cannot submit onto you, you do not have a woman. You don't have a wife. All right? So just understand that. If they can't do something as simple as stop wearing makeup, and that's something that I chose to do with my wife. But whatever instruction you have for your wife, she needs to have enough trust and faith in you that you're actually leading her in the right path. I mean, again, that's why I read it in the beginning. No man hates his own body, right? So if I'm choosing to lead this woman down a particular path, she needs to have enough trust and faith in me to know that I'm actually going to lead her in a way that's not meant to hurt her. And lo and behold, what happened? Now her skin is like a baby's bottom according to her own words, right? All right, thanks. You get what I'm saying? So again, men, you have to understand that the woman, she needs to submit. If she cannot submit, you don't have a wife. You simply don't. And for women, you have to understand that if you can't submit to the man here in America, best believe you are not going to be able to submit to no African man. You just not. You're just not. And you got to understand, no man cares about your money. No man cares about your money. Not no real man. You know what I'm saying? Not the man that you are actually looking for. Because the men that you looking for, they already got their own money. You get what I'm saying? So they're not gonna go Google Gaga. They're not gonna have or go all googly eyed over a woman that has a whole bunch of money and that's educated. In actuality, that actually turns a lot of men off. Straight up, that actually turns a lot of men off. That you hear, and this is what women gonna say. Oh, you're so insecure because you can't handle a real woman. Well, apparently, you're right. If you are a real woman, then I want the fake woman. I want the woman that know how to submit. That's what I want.
In other words, you work, you give me money, and you shut up. But I don't want your leadership. That's the kind of masculinity a lot of sisters are. They don't want nobody to tell them no. That ain't how it work. I'll wear the pants here. Most women in America ain't looking for that. That ain't what they're looking for. Most women look for masculinity as you work your ass off, you provide for me, you give me what, and I do what I want to do. I'm not gonna cook for you, I'm not gonna clean for you. That's a lot. I'm not saying all, but the kind of masculinity I think that the brothers are looking to give here in the world, and as the Gaba talked about, is masculinity is no, Jonita, you're not going out tonight. It's not safe over there with them friends. You're gonna stay home with me. A lot of women don't want that masculinity. Do you want a brother to come in and really lead like that? Do you want that? Most women don't want a man to lead them like that, but that is the real masculinity that men want to give. Both African and African American, both men want to be able to protect. And our protection sometimes is not what you like. Is it true?
Yep.
So that's what I think the conversation is about. Let me get with a man that I can tell him whatever I want to tell him, and I ain't got to listen to him. So let me go run away from it. But I think you're going to find a rude awakening, and that's why a lot of sisters over here is getting beat by some of these guys. I'm telling all of them. But men want to lead. Men want to protect. And you can't tell us how to do it. That's what I feel.
Hey, I think he did a good job, but he's right. Truth be told, again, a real masculine man, right? And, I read some verses in the Bible, right, just to kind of give a blueprint. But fundamentally, you have to understand, right? And what is that? You have to understand that every man is a man of his own house. So, despite what I may say, I think there's general characteristics of a masculine man, but essentially, you have to be the man of your own home. Period. Point blank. So I can't come to your dynamic your household and start running shit for you and your wife. That doesn't work that way. You are your own man. So, in other words, every man, in short, would like to just feel that he has some level of control over who he's protecting. Because again, I'm not gonna go and try to conquer the world, carve out a living, breaking my body in the process. You get what I'm saying? Breaking my hands, breaking my back, breaking my legs, getting fatigued, bleeding, sweating, all this stuff to provide a living and to provide some level of comfort and convenience for this woman, just for you to come back home after you done tried fighting against the whole world. You're fighting against the whole world, and then you come home and now you got to fight with your wife. That you here asking for basic things, and she's bumping her lips, clapping back, right? Well, I've been doing saying all this shit, and all you really need is peace. That's all men are really looking for at the end of the day, is some level of peace. So if you're literally fighting with your woman, it's that relationship, you already know it's not going to work. It simply put is not going to work. So I actually agree with O'Shea. Again, even though he was long-winded, but I do believe that essentially the crux of what he was saying is absolutely true. That this level of masculinity that a lot of these women want, I think she may be trying to go overseas to try to look for this quote-unquote masculinity, and where she's gonna be in for a rude awakening, because whether you go to, and again, even though they were talking about African American and African, again, this goes to all men. I think what you're gonna find out is that if you're truly looking for masculine men, whether you get it from the African American man, or the African man, or the Chinese man, or the white man, or the Italian man, the European man, it don't matter. A real man, irregardless of race, irregardless of culture, again, there's going to be a couple of those characteristics that fundamentally you're never going to be able to escape. So women, if you think that you're finna go into a real man, a true masculine man's house, and think that, they're going to allow you to do what you want to do, you are in for a rude awakening. You, women, are designed to submit unto the man. Period, point blank. The man is meant to provide food, raiment, duty of marriage, as we've read in the Bible, right? Conjugal rights, as we've read in the Bible. And that's why I started off by reading those verses, because again, if you find that quality of man, you're going to realize that he's going to be a patriarchal man. He's going to be a masculine man. He's going to be a very dominant man. That's a true masculine man. And if that's something that you really want, you better be a woman worth him investing time into. He's not going to invest his time into a woman that claps back. There's not enough time in a day, especially when there's a whole bunch of women who have not been yet, I said that's the key word, they have not been yet poisoned by the Western European mindset. So and hence this is why the passport brothers even exist. I'm not saying I agree with the movement, but what I am saying is that that's why it exists. Men are literally leaving America to marry women overseas because they know how to submit. They know how to obey. They know how to keep their mouth shut. They know how to actually build up their man rather than trying to tear down their man. They actually know how to cook and clean. Can you imagine? Man, I done spoke to this one woman the other day. She a grown woman. She's like in her 20s. You know how to cook? No. You don't know how to cook at the age of 20? Look, I'm going to be real. All right, irregardless of male or female, I think cooking is just a survival skill. I'm not asking you to cook like a top chef. I ain't asking for all that. But cooking is a survival skill. So whether you're a man or a woman, if you don't know how to cook at the age of 20, Go crawl under a rock because you clearly wasted your time in life. That's like saying you at the age of 20 and you don't know how to tie your shoes. That's literally what it sounds like to me. You don't know how to tie your shoes. You don't know your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. That's literally how essential cooking. And I would venture to say cooking is actually even more important than knowing your 1, 2, 3s and ABCs. I mean, you don't know how to cook at the age of 20. But women, they demanding a masculine man. They want a high value man. They want this, top class man without actually submitting. This world is crazy. And this world is truly crazy. I don't get it personally. But again, you guys, I would like to hear from you all. You guys heard my perspective. Again, it's rooted in the Bible. But I would like to just hear you guys, please write it down in the comments below. Like, what do you guys think about this discussion as a whole? Do you think men overseas are more masculine? Or do you think in actuality, masculinity is present in all parts of the world? But what's actually happening is that a lot of these women don't want to submit to such men because it's viewed today as misogynistic. It's viewed today as, domineering, disrespectful. You get what I'm saying? I agree with you 100%. This world is definitely crazy. I agree with you 100%. But what do you guys think? Please let me know. Because again, on this channel, I've been trying to dive into this topic for quite some time now. What is true masculinity? What is true masculinity? Yeah. With that being said, you guys, BlueFalcon over and out. Matter of fact, before I head out, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Do all that YouTube stuff, you guys, because it does help the channel out a lot. And with that being said, BlueFalcon, I'm over and out. Jesus is king, y'all.